my name is Nick Vavas. I'm setting out on a journey through the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. My goal? To visit 8 parishes in one day and show you why we live in a city of churches. In case you missed it, here's my journey thus far. I began my day by visiting St. James Cathedral and then to nearby St. Boniface. I then headed to Queens to visit Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Astoria, Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills, and Our Lady of Snows in Floral Park. Back in Brooklyn, I continue with a visit to St. John the Baptist Church, then to Holy Innocents. With 7 churches under my belt, I headed to my final destination, St. Peter Claver. Here we are, my last stop, St. Peter Claver. This church is significant as it was the first African-American parish in the Diocese of Brooklyn. What makes it even more special is its founding pastor, Father Bernard Quinn. But let's head on in, and I'm going to let the current pastor, Father Jarvis, tell you all about it. Come on. So, Father Jarvis, one of the first things I notice when I walk into St. Peter Claver is the magnificence, is the beauty of the structure. Tell me a bit about its history.
St. Peter Claver Church was founded in 1920 by Father Bernard J. Quinn as a church for African American people who at the time were not welcome or were not made comfortable in the churches. Father Quinn was a shepherd who literally walked the streets of Brooklyn searching for Black Catholics. And when he had found them, he was able to start St. Peter Claver Church, with these Black Catholics.
Is this how the building originally looked?
No. This building was originally built as a Protestant church in 1853, and it had gone through several Protestant denominations, and finally it had become a warehouse, and Father Quinn bought the building when it was a warehouse in 1920, and he rebuilt it as a church.
So when he purchased the church,
Yes.
was it the bishop who allowed him to establish a church for Blacks? Because at that time,
Yes.
I would assume that really wasn't heard of.
Sure. Bishop MacDonald in 1920 gave Father Quinn permission to begin an apostolate or the mission to Black Catholics. Father Quinn had written a letter in the tablet, and in that letter he had explained how important it was for the church to start a parish for Black Catholics, because he lamented, the fact that they were being neglected, and he had asked white Catholics to join with him in this noble endeavor.
So some of the, as I look around, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful structure, like some of the artwork. Tell me about like some of these murals that I see on the walls. Tell me about that.
Father Quinn had commissioned an artist in 1929, to have the murals, erected on the wall. And the murals depict the Ugandan martyrs who just a few years earlier, they were put to death because they were young men who had become Christians because of the missionaries. And they were told by their tribal king to resort back, to their pagan customs, and they refused, and they accepted death, rather than forsaking the Christian faith. The inner mural depicts St. Peter Claver. Peter Claver, who had been a shepherd for the Black Catholics in Colombia, South America in the 17th century. He had fought against slavery, and he supported the civil rights of the slaves. Unfortunately, he was not very successful in ending slavery, we know that. But Peter Claver gave his life for the slaves.
So it sounds like Father Quinn, especially during a period of unrest in this country, unsettlement with segregation, and despite his ill health, you'd mentioned there were some health problems, he still managed to move forward with this crusade. What do you think motivated him? Like, what inspired him to do this and create a parish for blacks?
Father Quinn was a priest who was just totally in love with God and felt that as a priest, that his priesthood should reflect the priesthood of Christ, the Good Shepherd who went after the neglected sheep. And Father Quinn saw himself as a shepherd going after the neglected, you could say, black sheep, who were not cared for, by the church.
Were there threats of violence towards him during this period of time? Was there any type of, I would think that there must have been some upheaval within the white community or the Klan at that time. Tell me about some of the threats that were posed against him or St. Peter Claver.
Here in Brooklyn, he did not face a lot of threats. However, there was some opposition against him from the neighboring pastor, Father Belford, the pastor of Nativity Church, who would oppose Father Quinn in the work that Father Quinn was doing. But the major threats against his life came from the Ku Klux Klan in 1928, because Father Quinn selected a very beautiful part of Long Island to found an orphanage for black children, and the Wading River residents felt that that was not the place where an orphanage should be founded for black kids. So they were able to recruit the Klan, and together they very violently opposed the orphanage. When the orphanage was completed, they had burned it down.
Wow.
Yeah, and they tried to drive Father Quinn away, and they told him that they were not going to allow him, to have an orphanage for black children.
Did he attempt to rebuild the orphanage?
Of course he did, because he was fearless, and he was very courageous, and he felt that he should not really buckle, under the forces of hate. And Father Quinn, he had a great faith in God. He felt that God was very much in his work, and God would protect him. And so for the second time in 1929, Father Quinn rebuilt the orphanage, and that also was burned down when it was completed. The Ku Klux Klan had threatened Father Quinn's life, and they told him, that if he persisted, then, then he was really in danger in his own life.
Right.
But Father Quinn was willing to die, for the children.
What would you say, Father Jervis, is Father Quinn's greatest accomplishment?
His greatest accomplishment, of course, is in, we can say, bringing the races together, because it's important to understand that though St. Peter Claver Church was founded as a church for black Catholics, it was a church not only for blacks, but the greatest numbers of people that came into St. Peter Claver Church were white Catholics who came for the weekly devotion of St. Therese. And it was here that the white Catholics were able to meet the black parishioners, and they discovered that they're all human beings, that they all needed the help of St. Therese for all of their problems. So I think Father Quinn did something that was very unusual. In the 1920s, he was able to bring blacks and whites together, and that was not very, very common.
Unheard of.
Yeah, it was very unheard of.
Right.
And as a priest who had given his life for the service of blacks, white Catholics also found in him a shepherd, a godly priest, a priest who cared for them as much as he cared for the blacks.
And he passed in 1940, is that correct?
Yes, he died on April the 7th, 1940.
And I would assume there was a huge, huge outpouring from both the black and the white community.
Yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, just recently I found the photos of the funeral, and the photos just shows just thousands of people on the streets.
Really?
Yes, there was just wall to wall for several blocks, and the New York City police were very much present just to create some sort of order, because
Right.
the crowds were just really
In
great.
commemoration of his life's works.
Yes, yes. To my right is a very, very beautiful statue of Saint Anthony, which was just recently rebuilt, because it was languishing, in the basement of the church, for many years. And it was broken in several parts, and it had to be restored. So the statue was restored.
And then also I noticed on the rafters
Yes.
as we walk down
Yes.
that each one has some type of inscription.
Yes.
What
yes.
are these indicating? What is this
These
telling me?
are the words of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus in the last weeks of our life. She said that she was going to spend our time in heaven doing good on earth. She was going to send down a shower of roses, that the Lord will work wonders for her. And certainly her words came true here in St. Peter Claver, because she had indeed spent our time in heaven, doing a lot of wonders for St. Peter Claver Church. It was a church where thousands of people receive favors. So St. Teresa of Child Jesus, we can say that is very, very much a part of the church.
And this, of course, is our
The
picture
portrait
of Father Quinn,
of
the portrait of Father
Bernard
Quinn.
Yes. The reason why he had himself really painted was not for himself, but to give the parishioners a sense of pride that they had a Monsignor, like the other churches that had Monsignors. But he himself really did not like that kind of publicity.
Did not.
Yeah. But
He was a
he
humble
felt
man.
that he was a very humble man.
Modesty and humble.
Yeah.
So, Father Jervis, tell me a bit about this statue of the Virgin Mary. What can you tell me about this?
Well, we can see that it's a very, very beautiful statue. It's a very simple statue, and it depicts Mary triumphing over, the serpent. And on the wall behind the statue are the depictions of the miraculous medal. The Blessed Mother has always been very important in the life of St. Peter Claver, and Father Quinn, who prayed the Rosary every day and encouraged the parishioners to have a close relationship with Mary, because he believed, that it was through the intercession of Mary, that we could be very close, to our son.
You must be very proud of all of this, as Father Quinn, I'm sure, was.
Yes, and I really feel that certainly I am blessed to be here at St. Peter Claver Church and to be in charge of St. Peter Claver Church, but I'm also in charge of two other churches.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be accused of favoring St. Peter
Favoring,
Claver.
yes.
Yeah, I love.
But this has
I
some
love
special
all-
significance,
It's special
clearly.
significance, because one can say it's a church of a very saintly priest who was greatly in love with God and who loved people, and he loved his black brothers and sisters. He considered himself to be a brother. He told them that he was their brother, and that and he stopped at nothing, in terms of rendering service. And he said that he was on fire with love.
He was
for
on
them.
fire with
He was
love.
on fire with love.
Well, clearly your compassion and your admiration for the church and for Father Quinn is very evident, and this church has to have special meaning for you. to show
Certainly not
favoritism,
only
as you
for
said,
me,
but-
but for the diocese. We are hoping that people, you know, from all the churches of the diocese will come to St. Peter Claver Church, and that they will learn the lesson of interracial love and the lesson of a priest who loved his people and cared very, very much about them. St. Peter Claver Church had always been a church attracting great numbers of people of different races.
Of different races.
Yes, so we would like the church to be a shrine, you know, as a tribute to Father Bernard J. Quinn and his love for our people.
Wow, St. Peter Claver is unbelievable. And with that, my journey is done. Or should I say, our journey. I hope you've enjoyed this trip through the diocese as much as I have, and I hope you've learned a little something along the way. As for myself, I think the biggest thing I'll come away with is that each church has its own story, something that makes it unique. So go out and discover it for yourself. Make your own journey through our city of churches. And if you have a suggestion for a church I should visit on my next trip, visit us at Net Online and tell me all about it. Until then, I'm Nick Vavas for City of Churches, and I'll see you next time.